I4Kids come from the fact that pediatric innovation is still elusive in Europe, and health innovation still tends to focus on elderly people, even if children represent 25% of the population. Children are often treated using adult devices adapted by the clinician, and this misadaptation results in stress and anxiety due to the lack of pediatric innovation that focus really on their needs. So in this context, it arises that there is a lack of European focus on pediatric innovation, and there is also a fragmented ecosystem in Europe with leading countries in innovation and emerging ones. So based on that, a European pediatric innovation network was needed, and that's why I4Kids Europe as a project has been launched in 2023 as a Euroism Europe project. This project enlarged the current I4Kids initiative led by Hospital Sant Joan de Déu in Barcelona, and it is leading this European one that aims at allowing synergies and reduce difference between strong and emerging innovator ecosystem in Europe, as well as strengthen the innovation competitiveness of the European pediatric sector. So what we have done as of now, so we have a report that has been published in March that you can find on our page. And now we have some exciting challenges coming. One of them is a hospital challenge that is dedicated for pediatrics innovator and startup. So you can apply to it, and you will find the information in the chat. It will close on the 11th of August. And the selected participants that will be selected in this hospital challenge will join us at the Pediatric Innovation Day 2024 in Riga on the 27th of September. So if you are interested in joining, don't hesitate to register on the link. It's a free event, so we really encourage you to join. And finally, we have this pediatric innovation training capsule going on to train all pediatric innovation across Europe. And we are today for our number 7. So that being said, that's the reason why we are here. So let's deep dive into today's exciting topic. So we know that new technology are booming and starting to benefit patients, and pediatric patients can be perfect user being digital native. So in this capsule, we will explore the virtual reality in pediatrics and how it can make healthcare child-friendly and effective. And we will tackle the large benefit it brings inside and outside hospital, as well as privacy and ethical consideration to address. So I'm really glad to present our 2 speakers of the day. So we have Lucas Perez, which is CEO of Health My Project, and is also a medical and strategic expert at the European Commission and author of Real Health Virtual World. As well, we have Valentino Megale, which is CEO of Softcare Studio and hold a PhD in neuropharmacology and is a digital entrepreneur. So we are really glad to have you here with us. And I will leave the floor to Valentino to tell us more about this topic.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Charlotte. Thanks a lot for the entire I4Kids community and the IT for Health Spain, also for the invitation. Happy to join and attend the event together with Lucas Perez. So I'm going to share also my slides. Probably, if you can give me just the rights to share. Okay. Okay, cool. Just a second. Okay. Here we are. Can you just confirm me that you can see my slides?
Not yet.
Now we do.
No.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
Do you see it, all of you?
Yes, I see you,
Yes, yes, we
and
can.
I see
Yep.
my slides.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
Just to
awesome.
answer.
Good. So thanks again. As Charlotte said, I'm Valentino Megale. I'm actually running a company in the domain of digital health, specifically focused on the Italian market, but with broader, we can say, scope and mission. With our company, we are applying virtual reality in healthcare, specifically to support patients during invasive and challenging or painful, stressful medical procedures. And we really started with a focus on pediatrics back in 2016. So I want to start from this. I want to start from where we started when we also entered in the first hospitals as a company. And back in 2016, we have been challenged by a hackathon, by an open innovation initiative, how we can improve the patient's experience, especially of young patients in the hospital, reducing the need to administer drugs. This is an interesting call that really shaped our work and shaped our activity in the following years. Because when it comes for patients' experience, like how patients experience therapy and the challenges of the disease and the challenges of the clinical settings, this is a complex mix of course, the clinical settings. Not all the hospitals are the same. Every hospital is unique. Some hospitals provide, we can say, 360-degree support to the patient. Some hospitals, unfortunately, not. So it really changes across the territory. Patients' experience is a result of the therapy. Some therapies are more challenging. Some therapies are more, we can say, feasible, or more, we can say, less challenging, we can say, from the physical and mental point of view. And of course, because of these challenges, patients have a behavior, especially when it comes for young patients. They normally have a resistance to the clinical settings, because the clinical settings is absolutely not a setting that align with their daily life, with their daily community of friends, home, with their playful daily routine. And of course, because of these behaviors, many physicians and nurses, we can say health operators, they need to undertake patients management, we can say, strategies, how they can ensure medical procedures and therapies can be delivered with the best quality while making patients collaborative. So starting from this, I'm sharing with you the results of a study that was made back in 2011. So a little bit of time ago, but still 25,000 young patients undergoing sedations, total sedation. Sedation is one of the many drug-based solutions that are delivered, that are provided to manage patients, to make them collaborative, especially during very painful treatments. And as you can see, there is a significant percentage of patients that shows up side effects. So sedation is a very immediate solution, is a very effective solution for many things, but there are many downsides. There are downsides in terms of cost, time, the efforts that you need to invest, but first of all, side effects that can be serious, or they can be a little bit less serious for patients, but still they require patients to come back to the hospital. Well, I want to start from this, because when patients enter in the hospital, as we said, this is not the settings, especially for a child, for children. So there are many ways we can potentially improve the experience of patients in the hospital. How we can make patients more collaborative without relying on drugs, or relying on drugs less than so far. How can we reconnect patients with their peers? How we can reconnect patients with their intimate needs and social needs? So we decided to use virtual reality. We decided to use a digital technologies that is drug-free, that is not invasive, because virtual reality, this kind of technology that allows to simulate the sense of presence, that allow to take the patients in another space so that they can feel they're really there, They can experience everything in first person. They can distract. They can go beyond the walls of the hospital. But at the same time, we can generate real physical, or we can say practical impact on their life. Virtual reality is a distraction tool. This is the most immediate way to explain, but this is the first line, because patients in virtual reality, they're not seeing the clinical settings. They can see something better, more pleasant, something more comfortable. They can represent virtual safe zones. They can represent virtual safe zones. So contexts where they can spend some time, they can feel private, they can feel comfortable, they can open up also about their emotions and their needs without the pressure of the clinical settings. And sometimes, this is an interesting thing that emerged from our experience in the hospital, there can be a place where the communication and the relationship can be repositioned in a settings that is more easily processed by the patients. We just one example that I always really love to share. We hear examples of hospitals where the communication between patients and physicians was not so much developed, was disrupted. Physicians were not communicating with patients. And when patients started to use virtual reality during chemotherapy, because we work in pediatric oncology, during other kind of treatments, the virtual worlds became the pretext for the physician to start talking with them. That was a magic moment that also psychologists stressed, hey, thanks to a virtual space, they're starting to communicate with the patient, something that was not happening in the hospital before. Because in the hospital, in the physical hospital, there are many invisible barriers that such a technology can allow to break. Luckily, this technology today is more affordable, more usable, more accessible. In the 90s, where the technology started to be used with patients, one headset costed $90,000. Now we know that it's really a matter of a few hundreds of dollars, and the same technology is standalone and not connected with the computers, so it's more usable across the departments. How many different kind of applications can be a virtual reality in pediatrics? We started talking about pain management and stress management without drugs. That's an amazing kind of application that we are using as a way to replace sedation. Also during, even during surgery, I say, of course, total sedation, not the local sedation. Virtual reality is used with great results also in rehabilitation, because rehabilitation means doing repetitive tasks for a lot of time with the possibility that the adherence to therapy really decreases when patients go home without the supervision of the healthcare professionals. So virtual reality can be a tool to engage patients, but also to track and monitor their state of advancement. And also mental health. How many practitioners in the world are using virtual reality to support young patients against phobias, anxiety, even autism? There is this growing field of virtual reality applied to the autism field, which is still borderline, but that would be amazing to support this category of patients to cope with their conditions. So there are a lot of clinical evidence, a growing number of clinical evidence, and VR as a technology is feasible, it's tolerated by young patients, we can say between 7 and 16, 18 years old, probably because of ergonomic details of the headsets and also clinical evidence, it is not suggested to use virtual reality with patients below 6 or 7 years old. This is a complex topic. We can also discuss about this during the Q&A session. But actually, there are, of course, some challenges. First of all, yes, there are many clinical evidence, but at the moment, we still lack a standardization of which kind of devices to use, how to test them, and how to use them. Every hospital is developing separated protocols, and this does not help a broader use of this technology with a standardized shared approach to XR innovation in healthcare. So there is still a lot of fragmentation there, and we need more collaboration across hospitals. Second thing, it's extremely important to train healthcare professionals to use these devices, because if they are not going to use the device in a correct way, if they don't know how to use the device, but don't know how to evaluate which patients need to use which kind of experience in VR, well, they are not going to deliver the expected value of this kind of solutions. The training is a big challenge. The skill gap also when it comes for digital skills is a big challenge in healthcare. Of course, these devices are first of all sensors. They collect data. So when it comes for delivering these kind of solutions, especially to young children, to young patients, what is the level of cybersecurity and who is the responsible for managing the cybersecurity in the hospital? That is another pain point. Of course, it's a not invasive technology, but it's still a technology in contact with patients. So hygiene, how they can be hygienized, sanitized, so that they can deliver, of course, the less risk as possible to patients. And of course, without the right supervision, and also without the right design of the experience, they can generate some side effects. Cyber sickness, if the content is not optimized to the device. Eye strain, if they are going to be immersed too much time, too long in virtual reality. And also, they can, especially when patients are going to be exposed too much to virtual reality, disrupt the coordination strategies of patients, because still, this is an experience that put in motion our brain. But how it's moving our brain, it really depends on the strategy on how we are delivering these solutions to patients. I want to add 2 more points and then finish. When we talked about the clinical applications of VR with young patients, but today, this kind of technologies is going to be broadly used by young individuals outside of the hospital. And outside of the hospital, we don't have the same level of supervision that we can have in the hospital. So just some numbers to share with you. Roblox, probably many of you are familiar with that, it's a gaming platform, it's an online gaming platform, but it's already in virtual reality. And the new generation of young players can play in Roblox in VR. Look at this. In Europe, we have almost 20 million daily active users, and almost half of them, 40% of them, are under 13 years old. And this kind of words, virtual words, I also added these images. We talked a lot about the metaverse, but now, especially when it comes for the European Commission, the wording, the official wording is actually virtual words. Also, when it comes for calls, for grants, for calls for regulation of this technology is merging with many other tech, especially artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is breaking down the barriers to entry, because many tools like this, they're implementing AI to translate in real time from any kind of language. So imagine how many young users can join there, and they can speak with millions of other users. And AI is also enabling the possibility to generate the content on demand. And soon, virtual worlds will enable also young individuals to create their own virtual worlds and share them with the others, for good and for bad, because these are both an opportunity for education, for entertainment, of course, and also social connection. But what could be the potential challenges? Last slides on my side. First of all, age inappropriate content. We cannot deliver the same content to every segment and age group of the population, especially when it comes for young individuals. We should break down a little bit the risks and understand which content fits in that kind of age group. You're going to meet so many people. All the interactions are mediated with avatars. Who is out there? How we can trust that on the other side we have still a child and not an adult? And how we can avoid undesired social connections. Of course, once again, privacy. Data can be collected in these worlds and how they are going to be used. And of course, virtual reality means that you are experiencing something very engaging that can manipulate or persuade your behavior. So we need Regulation, of course. We need new ways to verify the age, new ways to moderate the social words. And this is something that we discussed actually many times with another organization that I am part, the XRSI, and now also XRSI Europe. If you want to scan also this QR code, this will bring you directly to an event that we held also the last year, the Metaverse Safety Week, when we had an entire day dedicated to child safety. And you can really have a deep dive in this topic that we discussed it together with UNICEF and with our child safety initiative. So great opportunities, but also relevant challenges that should be approached. And we should understand outside of the hospital, who is the guardian? Parents, companies themselves, regulators, educators, all together, because in the end, it's a shared responsibility. So thanks from my side. I'm going to close the sharing of my slides, okay? And I leave the stage to Lucas. Thanks a lot.
So thank you. Okay, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, thanks. Thank you, Valentino, for the presentation. It's online with my presentation too about the metaverse and the virtual reality for pediatrics. So I will share my screen if I can do that. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen there? Okay, can
Yes.
you see my
Yes, we do.
screen?
Perfect.
Okay, okay, on my screen. Okay, so first of all, it's a pleasure to be here today. It's always a pleasure to intervene for the EIT Health. That is a huge European community. It's always a pleasure to talk with my friend Valentino today. And to quickly present myself, I'm Lucas Perez. I'm a medical and strategic expert in the field of healthcare and autonomy. I was the former French representative for EIT Health, and I'm also a board advisor for a company called Life Plus. That is a company offering technology for the autonomy of seniors people. And in this company, we developed AI algorithms, but also devices, connected devices, medical and non-medical devices to help to improve the life conditions of seniors living in nursing homes, but also at home. So today, I will talk about VR, metaverse, that is very correlated, but also every technology that contribute to improve care and living condition of children and pediatric specialists, all the environment of pediatrics. And I will also give you ideas to contribute to stimulate your strategy, but also your business with hospitals, but also structures that take care of children. And finally, I will finish with the key challenges for tech stakeholders working on metaverse, working on VR, AR, XR technologies, but also all the actors, the health workers in the field of pediatrics. So what about VR, metaverse, and all the technology in pediatrics? It's the question. It's the question. So the metaverse, as Valentino said, is a sort of virtual world that is a continuation, a sort of continuum of the real world into the virtual worlds. And as a Canadian professor, Paul Milgram, presents, so this continuum is from the real environment, the real world, to the virtual environment. And between the real environment and the virtual environment, we can find many technologies that that make us a new view on the reality. So the metaverse is this virtual world, that everybody knows. That is a buzzword. That is a buzzword for sure. And in 2022, the neologism metaverse was becoming a buzzword. It was a buzzword, but today the word is maybe not very popular, you know. And I've participated in a lot of events, workshops, and discussions where company, but also the man on the street, have used this term of metaverse. So what we can do into the metaverse. Into the metaverse, everyone is able to work, make friends, buy land on the platform Decentraland that maybe you know, or also see a doctor in a 3D hospitals, like for example, children's hospitals. And the number of users into the metaverse is unlimited, and they may be in the form of robot, animal, any type of cartoons, characters. So it's very fancy. It's a very fancy universe, the metaverse. And the metaverse finally is a digital environment where we can use virtual reality. It's an entire virtual environment, but we can also use augmented reality where user can interact each other or explore new sensory experiences. And for the pediatric fields, this notion of sensory experience is very relevant in order to provide rehabilitation, like Valentino says, but other applications. So the continuum, the reality experience sits on a continuum from reality to fully immersive. Augmented reality is very relevant in general for the healthcare space. Augmented reality, you maybe know this term. It's very useful when you play at a game like Pokemon Go, for example, and this virtual world is not completely a virtual world. So you can see virtual element in a real, into the real world. So it's sort of layers of virtual and real things, you know, and it's somewhere a sort of mixed reality. So when it comes to continuum, we could also think about the continuous access to many type of services, especially in healthcare, in order, for example, to access to professionals through virtual environment. So, okay. So now we will focus on what about the VR and the metaverse for healthcare. So there is a multitude of application and use cases in healthcare for the metaverse, regarding the metaverse. Maybe more 20 application, maybe more than 21 use cases that I developed into the book Real Health Virtual Worlds, in medicine, in sports, wellness, into the pharmaceutical industry, but also for disabled people and HCPs. So 21 use case in healthcare, such as, for example, telehealth. You can make into the metaverse telemedicine consultations, for example, provide the sort of continuum from the hospital to the home of the patients. And it's like what did, for example, the hospital of Lausanne in Switzerland, ensuring a sort of teleconsultation and telemonitoring for a cardiac patient in cardiology. And you can also provide through the metaverse new medical training experience or relaxing and gaming experiences, like, for example, do yoga into the metaverse in order to relax. So why the metaverse is so relevant for the healthcare ecosystem? First of all, the metaverse is relevant for what I can say the closed spaces. For example, a pediatric unit or also a retirement or nursing homes is a closed spaces, a very small place where children but also senior people lives. And it's very interesting to have this virtual space in front of this real space in order to escape, in order to explore another universe. So, for instance, you have another use case that is very interesting for. When it comes to metaverse, it's the application of metaverse for dentistry. And as you can see in these pictures, a pediatric dentist could support his patient during an immersive session where they will navigate a magical world in order to relieve their anxiety for the patient, for the child patients, and improve, for example, his level of stress, his level of anxiety. And you have another application also that is 100% virtual, that is the operating room, where you can simulate, because simulation is part of the metaverse, is maybe the bigger part of the metaverse, the simulation of, for example, medical training, or, for example, an intervention to avoid all the risk that you can find in the real world. And I talked to Luc Julia, for those who know this guy. Luc Julia is the co-creator of the Siri of Apple. He's a Frenchman, he's a French entrepreneur. And when we talk, he said me that metaverse for, I don't know, the car industry or the healthcare sector, it was the best way to simulate, for example, high risk situations for war medicine, for example, or for car test, for example, car crash test, because it works now for the Renault company, the car industry. So, okay. So what I want to see today is that the metaverse is for simulations. And in the pictures, you can see this program. It's a Canadian program called pediatric. pediatric is built in a partnership with McGill University, the Canadian university, and AI3 Simulations, that is a UK-based company working on pediatric trauma training with this program. And according to a study linked to this program, 81% of doctors preferred pediatric over traditional mannequins, simulators, because it's very high financial cost. And the problem today, the doctors say that the problem is that it's very expensive to go to this course in the real world. The simulation centers use expensive mannequins and they need to be staffed. And it's very complicated today. It ends up costing participants about more than $2,000 for a 2-day course, plus the fact that they have to pay for the transportation, but also for the hotel. And it's very expensive. And the metaverse, the virtual reality tool like this headset, for example, it's very cost effective for example, the university, medical university. So in complement to the standard metaverse, there is the metaverse of sense. And the metaverse of sense use an emerging technology that is called haptic technology, providing haptic feedback. And it's a real opportunity for children patient, for pediatric patient. So haptic technologies, as you maybe know, haptic technologies is a sort of technologies that where the sense of touch or the sense, all the feelings you can sense are very accurate. It's a wonderful technology, for example, for rehab, but also for, I don't know, the car industry or many industries where the sensitivity is very important. And to go back to the healthcare sectors, EPFL scientist, the famous Swiss university, has developed an artificial skins that provides haptic feedback. This feedback improves the sense of touch with great accuracy for the user of these technologies. And haptic technologies correlated to the metaverse, to the virtual world, could be very powerful in terms of healthcare, but in other sectors. The artificial skins contain sort of automatic actuators that form a membrane layers, which can be inflated by pumping air into it. And it's yes, it's very accurate, maybe more than 100 impulses per second. So you can imagine all the sensation you can have just on your fingerprint. It's very amazing. And our sense of touch for us, like a patient, for example, our sense of touch could play an important role in how we perceive and how we interact with the world around us. So haptic feedback types. What about these haptic feedback types? Haptic feedback can divide into 5 main categories. The first type of feedback is the force feedback. Just imagine your body that feels all the sensation of this technology through impulsion, through new sensations. The vibrotactile feedback is also another type of feedback where it is very commonly used in mobile phones, but also in any gamepad or game controllers, like when you are playing to a game on a PlayStation, for example. And it provides more subtle vibration signals that you can feel. Electrotactical feedback is also another type of haptic feedback by providing electrical impulse to the nerve endings, and it's very efficient. It's very efficient, and it's one of the most used feedback types in the industry. Ultrasound tactile feedback is not very used for now because there is a lot of studies on this field. It's not very accomplished, it's not a very accomplished technologies, and researchers work hard to improve this type of haptic feedback. And the last haptic feedback is the thermal feedback, and it's very meaningful. The haptic feedback is when the haptic device is in direct contact with human skin and sends signals via subtle changes in heat. For example, you can play on the level of heat. For example, more it's hot and more you feel something. You can adjust the level of sensitivity regarding the level of heat, for example. So to go back to the healthcare sectors and to the pediatric sectors, I would like to highlight these publications called Haptic Feedback-Based Virtual Reality Intervention for a Child with Infantile Hemiplegia. So as you know, the cerebral palsy is the most common cause of motor disability in the pediatric population with hemiplegia. In general, children use the unaffected upper extremity to compensate the weakness member, which leads to the disuse of the hemiparetic upper extremity. And there is a sort of disorder between the valid members and the invalid members, and it's very problematic in a long-term perspective. So that there is a big problem also on the technology that we can provide to the pediatric patient. goes to the fact that all the studies, the current studies are lead for the strokes, for rehabilitation in adults with strokes. And it's very, not bad, but it's very complicated for the pediatric fields and all the pediatric populations. So the solutions maybe could be an interactive virtual environment that can enhance the activation of brain areas during training, for example, like this child who is playing a game. And it could be very interesting for catalyzed neuroplastic changes for improved functions, for example. The use of VR games, according to the studies, is very efficient through the haptic feedbacks to engaging and make a sort of cost-effective intervention through a gamepad, for example. Okay, so for now, what are the overall benefits for pediatric patients? It's a very good question. So first of all, virtual reality, but also the metaverse are intuitive and accessible technology for young populations. Although young people are increasingly aware of new technologies by playing with smartphones, but other type of video games, it is rare, very scarce that they have a VR headset at home. Thus, this experience is likely to arouse the curiosity of children and encourage their adherence with VR and metaverse technologies. And on the other hand, the duration of the immersions is fully configurable. That is something very relevant for the hospital environment. It's very interesting because the technology is very accessible, even if for the hospitals and a fortiori the children's hospitals. The second point is about the fact that VR technologies, but also metaverse, are non-drug solutions to reduce anxiety and pain, as Valentino said. So interventions such as intravenous injections, or for example, the fact to change dressings are an integral part of the pediatric medical treatments, and globally is part of the care, you know. But other sometimes necessary pharmacological analgesics and all the drugs that we can use for the patients provide side effects, cause side effects in children. So it's, yes, it's very bad somewhere. So therefore, and I would like to say that distraction is a first rate non-medicinal technique to manage and alleviate the child anxiety about care. The notion of pain is very interesting to take into consideration, to take into account, because pain is an experience that contains sensory, cognitive, behavioral, and psychological components that the VR and the metaverse technologies can help to understand, but also with playing that we can play with. So, and all the studies have proved this fact. And the last point is about the fact that VR and metaverse technologies are a sort of space-saving tool, programmable, that is very useful for the hospital context and adapted to the hospital context. So what about the financial cost and business model of these technologies? The financial cost is a big point to highlight when it comes to purchase or to rent the solutions. For purchase, VR equipment cost is now more accessible even for hospitals. And we saw, for example, with clients that pediatric units linked to certain hospitals pay for the tools. The initial investment quickly turns out to be profitable because of the many cases of application. So if you pay for, I don't know, a VR headset, you can also benefit from many softwares, many applications, software applications, thanks to the tool, thanks to the hardware. And what about the rental model? If you are not yet convinced by the purchase of the solutions, rental solutions allows you to test and live amazing experiences. And there is a particular model for this type of model, the rental model. This model, the location-based entertainment model, that is very appreciated in the world of gaming, but maybe soon in the world of healthcare. The LBE refers to any entertainment associated with a particular location away from home, because the devices is very expensive. And we can experience this model through immersive museum, but also theme parks like Kidzania, that maybe you know. And it's a virtual and immersive environment that you could find outside the home, maybe in a hospital or in a specific center. Okay, I will be fast. How big is the VR and the metaverse markets? To conclude, VR and the metaverse market are focused on specific segments like simulation and diagnostic, as you can see. And the metaverse market is a very promising market. In 2021, it was 5 billion, and it will be 40 times more for the next decades. So, and what are the key challenges? The key challenges are ethics, about the moral, the principle, what is right, what is bad, data security and privacy, and the mass adoption of the technology. So I conclude because I was a little bit too long, and thank you for listening. Thanks.
Thank you a lot, Lucas and Valentino, for this insightful presentation. I propose you now to open the Q&A. So don't hesitate to open your mic and ask anything to Valentino or Lucas. Or if you prefer, you can also write into the chat.
Hi, we have first. Hi guys, how are you, Valentino? Do you remember me?
I'm good. Great to see you.
Good to see you. Listen, I've got one question, because there's no point to persuade anyone that VR, AR, etc. This is the future for sure. It's absolutely the future. What problems do you have with, let's say, registering these solutions as a medical product? This is the first thing. And how are your conversation with national, insurance like NHS or something in Italy or in Spain? How it's going, this kind of things?
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's a super interesting question and relevant. It really depends. The certification process for digital health solution is a field that is growing in Europe, but that is quite already. It is clearer in the US because of the FDA linear paths to certification. In Europe, it's still something growing. Different kind of European nations have different kind of paths, from Germany to the Netherlands and so on. In Italy, probably this is a longer process. Not all of the digital health solutions require to be certified as a medical device system, because it really depends on how they are going to impact the decisional process of the physicians, if they collect data, if they, of course, expose patients to a specific degree of risks. It really depends, especially in our case, when it comes to provide solutions to patients, to distract them from a uncomfortable situation. This does not fall exactly under the medical device solution. We expect to use the clinical data that we are collecting across the hospitals, especially when we are going to start to potentially quantify the experience of patients, or to support widely the patients, to potentially certify this kind of devices. But it really depends. When you say what is the level of conversation with the insurances, I would say it will be better in nations such as Switzerland, that have a very advanced way of connecting digital health with insurance. I would say in Italy, not exactly, not when it comes for digital health. There is a lot of conversation to be conducted with the national healthcare institution. At the moment, we have we can say a fragmented conversation with many local institutions, with many local hospitals, with many local, we can say, entities, but not with the general healthcare system. Still a long process. It's still a long process. It's a long process in Italy. It's a long process across Europe.
Yeah. What about
because of the MDR?
Yeah, Valentina. What about Germany? Because they have this system DIGA. They have this digital solutions for smartphones. Is it possible to join them or talk to them, or you know? Because
no, we are not talking with them, not at the moment. It's an interesting approach. I think that before we need to have a shared vision of what are XR technologies, also at the level of the European Commission. And with the XRSI Europe, we are discussing with the European Commission, especially within the context of the AR/VR industrial coalition, what are virtual worlds? What can be the framework to define this kind of technologies and to approach them from the regulatory point of view? Until these kind of technologies are going to be seen as an extension of the smartphone, we are basically failing the way. We are exactly avoiding the most important fact. They enable new kind of digital experience. They enable new kind of data collection processes. And we cannot certify, or we cannot approach this kind of devices as a medical device until we don't understand in a shared way what they are as technologies. This is a challenging part, because if people think that this kind of technology are just smartphone on your head, we are far, far away from the solution. We still need a little bit of work.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks a lot. What do you think, Lucas? Because this is also something very connected with your work.
To take a concrete example, in France, we have a company called Healthy Mind. That is a medical device for the software, but also for the hardware part. I think it's very interesting, because in Europe, country like Switzerland, as you said, but also France, see some pure players in the field of healthcare for treatment, but also for prevention. And I think, in my opinion, that is very depending to the purpose of the devices or the softwares for preventions, primary, secondary, or tertiary preventions, but also for treatment, compensation for a disability. And I think that the purpose is the key points to examine in order to qualify if it's a medical or a non-medical device. And about the insurance part, I don't think that the fact that device is medical or non-medical qualified is something determining for the reimbursement of the device or of the software. I don't think it's something very important for the business model of the insurance company.
I want to add one thing
in my point of view.
Because, for example, in the US, I remember the FDAs and also companies, of course, such as Applied VR and similar, they started to work with insurances to define the code specifically dedicated for the reimbursement of immersive healthcare, because RelieverX in the US is under prescription, so physicians can prescribe for chronic pain management. And you have this kind of pipeline that involves the code for reimbursement, the pipeline for the go-to-market strategy, which is still missing in Europe. It's still missing.
Exactly the
Probably
process.
there is no a category dedicated to this kind of technology.
Yeah, that's true. May I ask one question? One more, Lucas. It's a question to you actually. I saw on your presentation. I just didn't make a screenshot. The link to the this because I deal with cerebral palsy in small children, and I noticed that you presented this solution with hemiplegia. For children with hemiplegia to use VR hemiplegia. Could you just send me a link to this scientific work? Please?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
I will
be
send
very
you
grateful.
I will send you the publications. So the most important thing is through the studies, through the publication, is the fact that with a standard session, but also with a session with haptic feedback, that is the gamepad, the game controllers, you can catalyze, you can change the neuroplastic model
Yes,
of
exactly.
the children. Yes.
Exactly. This is why I ask you.
By the study.
Yeah.
And the session, it's a 60-minute session plus 60-minute sessions. Yeah.
Does it depend on the age of the children? Is it?
Yes,
do you remember?
Yes, it's depend of the age of the children's. So in the detail, I don't remember well if there is a classification. I don't know, between 1 year old to 5 years old, 5 years old to 14 years old.
Right.
There's maybe a classifications, but I don't remember well if there is an age classifications. But I will send you the publication just after.
Thank you. I will catch you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no problem.
So thank you a lot. We have 2 questions left. So Arnaud, if you want to do.
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte, and thank you, Valentin and Lucas, for very interesting capsule. I was following on the question before. If you have any experience, or of any experience that had been already applied in a hospital, and what's the payment or reimbursement model? Because I'm asking that because in our hospital we did some piloting on and some studies on the use of VR for pain and anxiety, but then the main problem that we had is although the results are significant, how then we can pay for that and extend the use inside the hospital, as there is no reimbursement and the regulatory is still not clear. So that's why I'm asking if you have of any experience on that.
So I take the questions. Sorry, Valentino. By experience, we saw that non-profit organizations like the Rotaries or the Lions Club could pay for the device. If the hospitals don't have money to reimburse or to purchase the solutions, non-profit organizations could be stakeholders in the chain of payment, by experience. And in France, for example, so it's not the case for clinics, it's not the case for clinics. It's more a relevant model for public hospitals, where non-profit organizations could be a payer for the solutions. If Valentino, you have an additional insight.
No, absolutely. That's a super great point. Honestly, I also reconnect with what you said, Arnaud and Lucas, and the question that Charlotte wrote in the chat, actually, about how was your journey to the implementation of VR in the clinical practice? Did you need to demonstrate clinical efficacy, or were you starting a research project? So on our side, at the very beginning, and that was partially a mistake on our side, a company mistake, we started interacting directly with the hospital the very first time, and it was such a long process, of course, because when you are delivering a similar solution, you are, of course, facing the safety of patients, first of all. So you need to really build a long process before. And so we started collaborating closely also with no-profit organizations, with foundations and associations, because they're doing exactly what we want to do. We are just adding a new tool to their mission, which is to improve the experience of patients and also to humanize the hospital setting. What they can help you is not only, to pay and buy the solution, but they already have the good connection with the ethical committees, with the hospitals, with the physicians. They are trusted organizations. So together with them, you can build, first of all, your first pilots. So you can start researching your solution. You can start fine-tuning your solutions to really understand what are the real needs of your patients, the pain points of the health professionals. They can support you. They can be your launchpad. After the first 2 years, where we entered in the hospitals in collaborations with the associations, once you have clinical data, once you publish your papers, when you have strong collaborations with the physicians, then it is okay to get in touch directly with the hospital, because you already have a roadmap. Now you have also protocols to suggest and to train the physicians. So also, in our opinion, and in the Italian market, the associations play a fundamental role in the hospital. They also, in our experience, they often support the psychologists in the hospital. The psychologists are there because in the most of cases, the associations are unfortunately the result of a dramatic event in the past. And these families, they know how important it is to support the entire experience of patients. So, there is this kind of intersection: associations, hospital, clinical data, and the company. As also Lucas could probably say, digital health is a network, and it provides the best of the value when the networks work.
Exactly, yes. Digital health is an ecosystem by nature between the health workers, because the health workers use and adopt the solutions, but also with IT guys, IT departments in hospitals, but also private stakeholders. And also, I would like to add about the clinical efficacy. Efficiency. It's very important. I will take the example of Healthy Mind for France to prove the clinical efficiencies for each medical specialties. For example, in an emergency case, in neurology, in dentistry, and all the startups, all the private company that are working on the field of VR for hospitals work on a particular medical specialty in order to prove the clinical efficiencies. It's sort of a clinical trial, and to go back to Healthy Mind. So it's a CE marked medical device, okay, type 1, but it's also the fruit of many studies, many clinical trials, many publications, scientific conference, and yes, it's the result of all these works that proves the clinical efficiencies of the device and the software.
Great. Thank you for answering Arnaud and Elena's question at the same time. We are a bit over time, but there is just a last question from Elena asking if you start your adventure with the support of the EIT or with another program in particular.
So it's for me, probably. No, we actually started our project at the very first, joining an open innovation initiatives led by a pharma company that was actually searching how to support patients without drugs, which is very, very important, especially today, because pharma company understand the digital technologies are a great ally to extend the quality of care. But then we went through accelerator programs in Europe and abroad. and we started accessing also funds through regional, Italian, European grants, partnerships, and so on. So in our case, we had not direct collaborations with AT Health. We had different contacts in the meantime, but not directly access the resources of the initiative. Not yet.
Thank you. Not yet, is what I was going to say. Well, I think with that being said, we can close the session of today. So thank you a lot for really this insightful input that you had to the conversation and this final talk that I think add a lot and a lot of value. So with the training, we will come back in September. We will take a break for the summer, and we'll come back in September with a new session. So thank you a lot again, Lucas and Valentino, and yeah, wish you a nice summer to all.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Charlotte.
Bye to
Thanks.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye bye. Best.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
Bye.